Guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kayla and I'm really excited to spend this time with you. So we are going to 100% take advantage of the crazy winter weather that the Midwest is bringing us, and we are going to enter our winter/Christmas book reading era. So let's go ahead and talk about the books that I want to get through this week. So the first one I actually purchased on Black Friday. I went to Barnes & Noble with the hope that I would find really amazing deals, and unfortunately I did not, but I hardly ever can go to a bookstore and leave empty-handed, so I did pick up The Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. So this book has 4 female main characters. Our first one is Hattie, and she runs like a bed and breakfast in Vermont called the Maple Sugar Inn. So Hattie and her husband actually purchased this inn several years back, and then unfortunately her husband passed away very unexpectedly. So now she is trying to navigate running this bed and breakfast all by herself and also raising her very young daughter. She has a really high stress job and her staff doesn't exactly make it easy on her, but she's trying really hard to keep the peace with everyone and just live her life. Then we have our 3 other main characters. They are a friend group of best friends. That is Erica, Claudia, and Anna. So this group of women have a book club where they meet once a year. They spend a week together and they just read and discuss the same book. And this year they chose to host their getaway at the Maple Sugar Inn. So they're going to end up running into Hattie. But all 3 of these women, I will say, are going through some sort of like midlife crisis. They're all in their late 30s, early 40s, and then none of them are really 100% happy with how their life is going so far, and they all feel like failures in different aspects. And one of our main characters, which one? I think it's Erica. She keeps hinting at this secret that she doesn't want to admit to her best friends. So I am excited to see what that is because it kind of brings a little bit of a mystery element to this book. And I love books that are about friendship. So not only does this book take place in December, it's also a friendship book. So I'm really excited to see how this one goes. I am on chapter 4, and we have been introduced to all of our main characters at this point. So as we progress through the story, I really hope I like this one as much as I think I will. And the next book I'm going to be listening to on audio. I do own the physical copy, but I'm going to primarily read it via audiobook on my Hoopla app, and that is The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. This is about our main female character, Lulu. She is what she is trying to be as the perfect housewife in the 1950s. So Lulu ends up getting pregnant, and she has her second child, and you see the slow decline in her mental state after having her second child. And as someone who's had a child, I think what she's dealing with is a level of postpartum anxiety or maybe some postpartum depression. But either way, you see her mental state slowly decline. And what is a huge trigger for her is her neighbor just moved away, and her and this neighbor were best friends. Apparently they used to like share a wardrobe and hang out all the time. She even had a key to this woman's house, but this friend moved away and a new couple has since moved in. And the woman of this house, her name is Bitsy, I think. Yeah, Bitsy. And Lulu is just not really a big fan of Bitsy. She finds her to be somewhat strange, and they always have very cold interactions. I think Lulu in her mind thinks that she's welcoming Bitsy. She's trying to get to know her, and Bitsy is just coming off very cold. But I'm almost wondering if that coldness is being incorrectly portrayed to us because Lulu is, I think, struggling mentally. I am only on chapter 8 at this point, so I'm not that far into it, but I'm definitely liking that. I think that this is going to be a mixture of historical fiction and a mystery thriller. So that makes me excited because I am so picky about mystery thrillers, but I think that this book having the historical element to it will draw me in a lot more. So these are the 2 books we'll be focusing on this week. I'm really hoping I enjoy them. My best friend actually read this one and she highly recommended it. She flew through this. So usually if she loves a book, I tend to really enjoy it as well. And then this one, I mean, it just seems like such a cozy, good time. So let's read these, see what else we can get up to this week, and hopefully we have 2 highly rated books at the end of this video. All right, hey guys, car chats with Kayla, because this is a free moment I have to actually provide an update. So we are going to talk about The Mad Wife. So that is the book that I am currently reading on audio. So I largely read it when I'm like in the car, doing stuff around the house, getting ready in the morning, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I am on chapter 13. Guys, I am truly enjoying this book. If I could just sit down for one whole day and power through it, I 100% would, because it is so good so far. It's wild to see how society looked at what a perfect housewife and what a perfect mother should be in like the 1950s era. So I know I mentioned in the first clip that our main character Lulu is definitely struggling with some sort of like postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. I mean, that's at least what I'm getting so far out of the book, that she is clearly struggling postpartum. And like the people around her just really don't know how to manage or help her go through that process. And without giving, this isn't really a spoiler, I don't think, but if you think it's a spoiler, maybe just like skip the next like 15 seconds. But it's wild because her husband realizes there's a problem, and he comes up to her and he's like, hey honey, I know how I can fix this problem. I've done something really great. I got you a dishwasher. And he just like thinks that this dishwasher is going to solve all of her problems. And what's even more crazy about it is she somewhat kind of believes it, because I think she also doesn't really quite realize what's going on inside of her own head. Like, she's realizing that something is wrong. She's realizing there's a problem because like she's letting her appearance go, supposedly, and she's not like really keeping the house clean and just like doing all the things that she's supposed to be doing as like a good wife. So she knows that there's a problem, but I also don't think she really completely understands how to solve it for herself or how to like properly reach out for help. So it's just wild watching somebody go through that. And because I feel like now, I mean, even now, I feel like people don't really know how to help people with mental health oftentimes when they're struggling. But I do think it's a lot more widely accepted to at least admit you have a problem or something's going on. And you can tell that she clearly is afraid to like talk to or reach out or ask for help, because people are somewhat reaching out to her. Like, she had a doctor kind of ask her if she was doing okay. She had some friends that know her very well ask her if she was okay, and she's just like, yeah, I'm doing fine. Like, she just doesn't really know or want to admit that she probably needs help. So I'm really enjoying this book. I will say, if you are at all, I hate to say the word triggered, but I would definitely look up the trigger warnings on this book, largely because I think someone who might not be, like someone especially that is freshly postpartum that might be struggling, I don't think personally that this would be the best book for you. I definitely think you will want to go through your own journey and healing process before reading this book. Personally, I don't know how I would have liked this book freshly postpartum, but I'm getting 5-star feelings from this one, guys. I'm really liking it. So let's hope that continues. I don't know how much more of it I'm going to be able to listen to tonight, simply because I'll be at home, and then once I get Chloe put down for bed, I will pull out like my physical book, and that's the Book Club Hotel. That's what I'm physically reading right now. So I don't know how much more I'll get through The Mad Wife, but like I said, I'm getting 5-star feelings and I'm really liking it. So I will continue to keep you guys updated. Sorry, my alarm in my car is going off because one of my dogs is in the passenger seat. So she's setting off like the weight limit, telling me that the passenger needs to have a seatbelt on, but it's one of my corgis. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated on how I continue to like the book, and hopefully I continue to get these 5-star feelings. So that's my update on The Mad Wife. Hey you guys, it's a few days later and I wanted to give a reading update for The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. So I am still really enjoying this book. I'm actually more than enjoying this book. I am loving it. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, to be quite honest. I mean, my best friend recommended this to me and told me I was going to absolutely love it. But I try to go into most books without extremely high expectations because I don't want to feel let down if I don't absolutely love them. But this one so far is meeting all of those expectations. I am on chapter 23, which is about 70% of the way through, and I have been listening to it. However, it is Friday night, so I am going to try to finish the rest of this. I'm going to read it physically because I think I can knock it out. Let's see, so I'm on page 213, and it looks like, yeah, there's only 296 pages total. So I truly think if I really buckle down, I could probably finish this book tonight. I think what makes this book so special is it's not just a mystery and it's not just a historical fiction. It's intertwining both of those genres, and I think it's doing it so perfectly. So our main female character, Lulu, I know I briefly discussed it at the beginning of this video, but she is struggling severely with mental health. She has had her second child, and she doesn't seem to have ever really returned back to normal since having that child. You can see the very rapid decline in her mental state since the beginning of the book when she was pregnant and had said child. You can see the rapid decline. And she's doing things that are very, what I would say to be out of the character for someone who was thinking clearly. And it's really interesting to see how the people around her are responding to her mental health crisis. So there is a doctor in this book, and at the beginning, I really thought he was going to be a great advocate for her. And then at some point in the book, and this isn't really a spoiler, I would say, I mean, we're talking about mental health, so I think that comes with a lot of pretty obvious conversations that are going to be had in the book, and one of which is obviously how people were choosing to medicate, specifically I think women in the 1950s, and probably just like earlier on, and trying to understand what was going on in women's health and women's mental health. And one part that specifically bothered me in this book is the doctor, who I thought was really going to come to her rescue and defense. He recommended this medication to her, and he said he said something to the effect of like, not only will it make you feel better, but this medication will make your husband the happiest he's ever been. And although I do think the overall happiness and health of a family obviously greatly depends on each member of that family being mentally healthy, I don't think putting that pressure or saying that comment of like, you have to take this medication to make your husband happy is a great way to make someone feel like you're helping them and that you're doing something that's right for them, not just what's right for somebody else. I would absolutely look at the potential trigger warnings of this book if you are someone who is newly postpartum, someone who struggles with mental health or mental health crisis, or someone who's just very sensitive to those topics, because now that I'm in the last, towards the last quarter of this book, other discussions of other treatment methods are being discussed. And I think that could be very upsetting to some people because it's really weaponized against our main female character. And I think it's also been weaponized against other women that are in this book, the different treatment methods that are being used, because they just can't stand these women being hysterical. And they're not just like, these people's definition of hysterical is not really anything I feel like out of the norm. I don't think it's fair for women who are newly postpartum to be required basically to be right back to normal as soon as they have a child. There is a major healing process, both physically but also mentally. And you see these women pretty much the day they come back from the hospital, jumping back into normal life. They are getting dressed in their nicest of nice clothes. They're doing their hair and makeup. They're taking care of the home. There's really no healing process. And I think that that's why a lot of the mental health is coming into question, because they're not giving themselves that time to heal. So with that, there's going to be times where I'm sure people are going to have outbursts. That's a completely normal response. I mean, as long as you're not being physically violent, obviously, or threatening, threatening specific things, I think it's completely normal to have outbursts. But it sounds like even just like the minorest of minor outbursts that some of these women are having, these medical providers, the husbands, are just taking extreme measures to get rid of the hysterics because they just don't want to deal with it. And I think if you were at all sensitive to those topics, I would maybe steer clear of this one unless you have someone or some way to help yourself manage thoughts that might be triggered by this book. But I will say, overall, loving this book. So I am hoping to finish this tonight. So let's go ahead and put on a cozy set of PJs, get a little evening drink. I'm doing Sprite, living large over here. And let's see if we can finish this book. That way, later on this weekend, for the next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we can focus on our other book we're trying to read for the week. So that was my update on The Mad Wife, and let's see if we can knock this one out tonight. I wanted to share that last night, my husband and I went to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We have never been to that before. I've never even been to just like a normal orchestra. For my husband's birthday, he actually asked for tickets to go to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And I just thought it would be such a fun experience. So we made like a whole afternoon and evening of it. We went out to dinner, got dressed up, and then we went to, like I said, to go see I think they call it TSO. They all were calling it TSO. So I want to go ahead and share some of those clips here with you.
In the cold winter's night, a child.
It was a really great experience. We definitely want to go back. And I think we also want to give like just a standard orchestra a try. So we might try to find a show to go to. I think that would just be really cool to see. And yeah, let's make the rest of this weekend cozy and bookish. It's supposed to be pretty cold, so we should have a lot of time indoors. So let's get to reading. Good morning. So we had a little bit of change in plans last night. I know I left the last clip saying we were going to stay up and finish The Mad Wife. That was our plan. But as soon as I hopped off of the camera, our toddler had the worst night's sleep she's ever had, probably in a very long time. So that had to take priority, and we got no reading done. We were up very late into the night. So now we are going to sit down. We are going to read our book. I've already had some breakfast. I had a parfait, but now I have my coffee in my favorite gnome mug. So we are going to get right into reading this morning, and let's see if we can finish this up. So let's go. Hey guys, happy Saturday. I wanted to give my final review of one of the two books, The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. I'm just going to say right off the bat that this book was, luckily, as I guess, a 5 out of 5 star read. Absolutely enjoyed this, and it was a very eye-opening read. This was a very eye-opening read. It's one of those books where it really makes you sit and think about how far we have come. And yes, in a lot of ways, in a lot of different areas, there's a lot of room to still grow, but in mental health treatment specifically, I think this book shows we, specifically women, are so lucky how far things have progressed. So as I've already talked about, our main female character, Lulu, is struggling substantially postpartum. Find out in about the last 25% that there's actually a lot more going on than just general postpartum anxiety and depression. But this book really highlights how so many people can be failed by the system that's there to support them, oftentimes also failed by their communities, failed by family members. And it was actually really sad, but also kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I think I've already said a couple times in this video, I would recommend this to be read. I am shocked that the Goodreads average rating is not higher than what it is. I could see maybe why people wouldn't like it if you don't like reading stories about mental health treatment, or improper mental health treatment, or outdated methods. I could see how that would bother probably a lot of people. But I also think it's important to read that stuff so you know what used to happen so things aren't repeated. And I think a lot of really barbaric methods of mental health treatment were highlighted in this book. And I'm really glad, as someone who at one point in my life has been medicated for anxiety, I'm really glad that a lot of those methods are not used today. Read and make sure that you are in a good place to read this book. But guys, I'm telling you, you have to read it. It's amazing. It's a very short book. I think there's only, right at 300 pages. And I 100% want to read her other 2 books. It looks like she has 2 others that are out. So I've added those to my list of books I hopefully plan to get to one day. I will say my only gripe with this book is the other somewhat main character, Bitsy. I feel like her character probably could have been fleshed out a lot more, and then towards the end of the book, you just never really see or hear from her again. It's just kind of like, oh, she moved away, but it doesn't really ever give her more. I think her character maybe deserved a lot more explanation. I think that they really could have dove deeper into her past, because she did have a troubling past that we were alluded to. So I think more could have been done in that aspect. But overall, I really have no complaints about this book, and I would recommend anybody read it. All right, you guys, so we are finally ready to give our final review of The Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. So this book did take me quite a lot longer than I initially expected to get through. It was a good book. Like, it was a very sweet story, very cozy, something I think a lot of women could relate to. I just think it probably could have been about 50 to 75 pages shorter, to be quite honest. So we have our 4 female main characters, and all 4 of them are having some sort of like midlife crisis, or just something that they're struggling to deal with personally. And each chapter is basically an internal monologue of how these women are handling their individual issues, and they're also kind of talking about how they are interpreting the other women's issues that are being discussed in the book. So basically what's happening is we have Hattie. She is the innkeeper, and she initially bought the inn with her late husband, who obviously has passed away. So she is running the inn all by herself, and she's also raising their very young daughter by herself. And she's struggling because she sees a lot of growth opportunity and a lot of ways to do things differently at the inn, but she's mostly struggling because she doesn't want to change anything the way that her husband was doing it, because she just like doesn't want to let go of that part of life, which understandable, that I can't even imagine. But she wants to keep things exactly the same way. But a lot of things, although are working, there's also equally the amount of same things that are not working. And she's trying to navigate, okay, how do I go about keeping the original concept of this inn, but making it my own, while also raising a daughter. And she's also trying to just have her own personal life. She wants to date. So there's just a lot of things going on for her. She's only in her like late 20s. So that's a lot for someone to navigate at such a young age. So we have her story, and then we have the 3 best friends. Their names are Erica, Claudia, and Anna. Yeah. So they are the 3 best friends. They were friends, I believe, before college, but they were definitely friends in college because they were roommates. And they all have 3 very different personality types. First, we have Erica. She is the quintessential like boss babe. She's working, she's traveling all the time, she's running a company. She hasn't made time for really much of a personal life. Like, she's not in a long-term relationship. She doesn't really have family, and her family background is pretty difficult. And then we have Claudia. So Claudia is a chef, and she lives out in California, and she is also not married, but she does have a long-term relationship. And this is not a spoiler at all. They broke up, and so that's what her crisis is, because she lost her job and they broke up. So she's trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my life next? Like, I'm basically 40 at this point, and I feel like I'm starting over. And then we have Anna. She is the housewife, got married, had children right away, keeps a very lovely, cozy home. And she is struggling because her kids are approaching college age, where they're going to be moving out. And her identity is 100% wrapped up in raising children, keeping a house. And now she's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with myself now that my kids are gone? So all three of them are struggling with three very different things. So the three friends go on their yearly week-long book club trip, and they end up at Hattie's Inn. So it's really interesting to see how all four of them interact with each other. And it's pretty obvious how this book's gonna end up pretty much right away. I don't think, there was a pretty early on plot twist that I didn't see coming, but the rest of it, I feel like you could kind of see where it was going. Not that that's a bad thing. I definitely don't appreciate that in mystery thrillers, but it was a very predictable read. But I will say it was extremely cozy. The winter vibes were definitely on point. And the very last scene in this book takes place on Christmas Day. So I think that this is a great time to read this book. Although I think you can really read it all winter long. I don't think that this is necessarily like a Christmas book, but they do talk about Christmas in this. But don't take that as like you can only read it at Christmas, or you kind of have to wait for the year. I think wintertime in general, you can read this. So like I said, I did enjoy this book, but it's only a little over, it's 360 pages it looks like. And it did take me about 2 weeks to finally wrap this one up. Now granted, I'm busy. I have a lot going on. We had the stomach flu hit our house, so we've been pretty preoccupied. But for an under 400 page book to take 2 weeks, like I said, that's a long time. So it wasn't something that was like a page turner. I will say the chapters in this book are very long. I am someone who doesn't really love long chapters to begin with, but I especially don't like long chapters in like Hallmarky type books. I just don't really think that that is a great mixture, because there's nothing really in there, in my opinion, to keep you like wanting to turn the pages like you would find in like a mystery thriller, a fantasy, something like that. So each chapter was about 20-ish pages long. To me, that's pretty long for this type of book, but overall, I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. Something I would recommend people to read, because I don't feel like it was a waste of time, and it was overall a good book. It just wasn't something that knocked my socks off. It just did its job, and that was that. All right, you guys, and that is the end of this week's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know I was behind a couple weeks, but like I said, we had the stomach flu hit our house, so it's just been pretty crazy, and I've already started planning videos for 2026, so this might honestly be the last video for the year, just because everything I'm going to film moving forward, I think, is going to be stuff to get me started off strong in 2026. So if I don't see you guys again for the end of this year, I hope you guys all have a happy holidays and a great new year, and I will see you in 2026. If you would, I would really love if you would like and subscribe to my channel, and let's start off the next year with a bang. So until next time, I'll see you when I see you. Have a great rest of your year. Bye.